Hello everyone, welcome to the fight overview video for Low Man, the very first competition I've ever entered it in. The competition was just a few weeks ago. It was ARC Robo Rumble 2019 down in Phoenix, Arizona, hosted by Team Small Robotics. Low Man ended up getting first place and also winning two special awards, which were Slam Dunk Award, which was most pits, and also coolest looking robot. So in this video, what I want to do is just kind of give you an overview of the fights and show you how it performed. So let's see the first fight for Low Man. My very first fight of the day, and I guess ever, was against Off Track. Was a bot built by the same builder of Wumbo. And Off Track was a vertical spinner. It kind of had this drum beater bar type situation, just a big thick chunk of metal with some teeth on it that spun, had some wedgelets in the front, and it used tracks for drive. Originally, Off Track was supposed to have magnets in the drive, but they were too much, and they were, having some issues with the drivetrain. So yeah, it was going to be an interesting bot. They probably had more powerful drive than I did. Low Man is very slow, as you will see here in a second. So I decided to go with the wedgelets for Low Man because really the wedgelets are best for getting under things, but since this is a vertical spinner, I really wasn't worried about horizontal hits, so the wedgelets were the right choice for this fight. So let's see how it went.
3, 2, 1, fight!
All right, off they go. Low Man slowly approaches, getting under everything. Off Track seems to be able to win the pushing match. There goes Low Man, pushing him through the wall, now serving him like a dinner plate. The zip tie is now bent underneath, completely thwarting his ability to get under Low Man. Now there's just a bar. Low Man giving us his best limbo demonstration as he drives under the bar. How low can you go? Pretty low.
Open that pit!
We have 1 minute and 12 seconds till that pit drops, and I have a very strong suspicion that's going to play a part in this. Off Track on his back, can he get back up? Low Man doing everything to keep him from doing so. Slamming into the wall, trying to hope that maybe knocks him back on his feet, but oh, there he goes, and he's back! Low Man immediately shoots him up though. How do you fight that which has no height? This two-dimensional robot. Seconds until the pit goes down. Can Off Track land in a few more hits before that happens? Looks like maybe a chunk of wheel came off, but he's got 11 more. Nice shove into the wall there. 10 seconds until that pit drops.
I think it's just a piece of this time. Yeah.
2, 1, and down goes the pit. 1 minute remaining in this fight. We're getting awfully close here. Inching ever so slowly that way. Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam.
As you can see, Off Track was trying to use these zip ties to try and kind of scrape really down low on the floor, but they still were no match for the wedgelets of Low Man, and I was able to just get under him, and then as soon as 2 minutes hit, it was just a matter of getting them in the pits. I was very pleased after this fight, seeing that this was the very first match that Low Man had ever had, The magnets were the right blend of just enough downforce, but not too much. It drove really well. It's very precise, very easy to kind of navigate around. And yeah, overall, I was very happy with this win. And I just got like maybe a couple little nicks on the frame, but really it was just a couple scratches that dinged up the finish was all. So very happy with this first fight. So now I was in the winner's bracket, and my next fight was against Red Die number 5. If you watched a lot of my videos, you might have seen Red Die number 5 at the last event that I was at. They ended up taking first place. It is a very well-rounded bot that has a 4-wheel drive. It's a vertical spinner. It's kind of like a Bite Force clone type of thing. Has a really nice and powerful and generally always running vertical spinning weapon, and it usually has really good wedgelets to get under. So this bot usually has no problem getting under anyone else. So I was a little bit worried going into this fight. I went back into the pits, took all my wedgelets off, shaped them with a file, got them nice and low as they could go, and I knew this was going to be a bit of a difficult fight, but this would prove if Low Man was going to end up working. So let's see how that went.
One, fight!
Both robots inching towards each other. Red Die number 5 wondering why this piece of floor is driving at him. Low Man getting underneath the wedgelets of Red Die, shoving him over to the corner. Oh, one of his wedgelets is stuck up. Hopefully that won't affect too much. Oh, nice big hit. The Low Man takes no damage and keeps driving like a champ. Another solid hit by Red Die number 5. Oh, there's a nice solid hit. Low Man takes it like a champ though. Red Die number 5 sending hit after hit. Just over 2 minutes remain. When's the hit? There's a nice big hit. Low Man still driving just fine. But Red Die number 5 did not like that. Attacking my camera. There we go. Hit after hit. Red Die number 5, completely unrelentless. 49 seconds until that pit drops. Low Man turning into server train mode again. Who ordered the Red Die? There's a nice solid pin, which is now over. But he gets those sweet, sweet points. Do we have a weapon malfunction, or is that just strategic battery saving? Looks like strategic battery saving. Alright, and 3, 2, 1, release! 10 seconds until that pit drops. Low Man won his last fight by dunking someone into the pit. Can he do it again?
Oh, he's wedged into it.
And 4, 3, 2, 1, release.
I don't think so. It's good.
Alright, and watch out! That pit is open and active. Low Man desperately trying to get Red Die into that pit. Red Die is not allowing it. I may have spoken too soon. An explosion of cushion as he crashes into the pit. Low Man now 2 for 2 on pittings.
As you can see, for the most part, I was able to get underneath. The floor seams did cause me some issues here and there, but generally speaking, with as low as Low Man is, as long as I was driving relatively clean and could get straight up on them, I could usually get underneath. I did run into a couple interesting little issues to where we would kind of get wedged in the wedgelets, like one of his would go up on top, one of mine would go on bottom, and that kind of caused a little bit of an issue, but thankfully, I didn't really come out with that much damage. He did end up clipping in a couple spots. There was one spot where he clipped right on the side. It bent that in just enough to where the bottom access panel kind of bowed up a little bit. And so when I brought that back into the pits, I kind of had to file that little dent down, and then the panel fit. So I didn't take a whole lot of damage. I lost a couple wedgelets. There's a couple times where he got the wedgelets and they bent them out of place a little bit, but I had some extras, filed those down, and everything was good. But this was an interesting fight because it got to show me how Lolo Man would fare when it actually got hit with a vertical spinner. Horizontals, I'm not that concerned about because it is so low. It'd really have to be like an undercutter to do anything. But hitting in the front, hitting on the sides, it was interesting to see how it could flip up in the air and survive that. So I was pretty happy about this fight. At this point, Lolo Man was 2 for 2 for the day, which was pretty good. My next fight was up against Rickety Cricket. Rickety Cricket is a gyro walker. For anyone not familiar with gyro walkers or some of the rules behind these, a normal robot has to be at the weight limit. So for a beetle weight, it has to be 3 pounds. Well, if you don't use traditional locomotion, you use some other form of movement, you either get a 50% or 100% weight bonus, so you can actually be significantly heavier. Rickety Cricket is a gyro walker, meaning it uses a large vertical weapon that it kind of tilts left or right with a servo, and it doesn't use any traditional wheels or any wheels whatsoever. By just simply turning that gyroscopic spinning wheel, it will actually want to drift and ultimately drive and turn around the arena. It is extremely slow, but it has this huge weight bonus on it, so the weapon weighs about as much as my full robot. And Rickety Cricket was doing a ton of damage, just obliterating other bots throughout the day. It was doing quite well, and that was going to be my next match. I decided to get rid of the wedgelets because they could hinder me too much. I knew that this was going to be more of a driving match because it is extremely slow. I mean, even a lot slower than Lolo Man, so I ended up going with the wedge, the 3D printed nylon wedge, and I glued some magnets on the bottom of it just to keep it stuck down to the ground, because if it popped up just a little bit, even on the seam, and he caught it, it could rip the whole front end off. So basically I had to drive this fight and never get hit. So that was an interesting challenge. Let's see how that went.
Blue square, ready.
Yep.
Red square, ready.
All right.
Thank you for
3, 2, 1, fight.
Here they go. Lolo Man doing its best to outmaneuver Rickety Cricket. But don't underestimate the mobility of Rickety Cricket, as it can almost quite literally turn on a dime. Tentatively trying to get around back. Very brave. Oh, wow. Dancing with death. Driving right under Rickety Cricket.
That's right. Yep, there you go. Get right underneath this.
Very delicately, Lolo Man plays limbo with a 3-pound death bar and has yet to lose. But can his luck stay that way? Just over 2 minutes left in this fight, as they nosy-do. Slowly and steadily, Lolo Man tries to push Rickety Cricket without risking too big a hit. The pin will drop in 43 seconds. Rickety Cricket doing the Rickety Cricket dance. Hit in 30 seconds. It's like a little bit of a scrub on Lolo Man's wedge. Other than that, it's been handling things just fine. The drops in 8 seconds.
So this was quite possibly one of my favorite matches I've ever had in the history of me doing combat robotics. It was one of those kind of cat and mouse type of matches that went almost the full time. You know, Rickety Cricket was definitely trying to maneuver around and get that right hit. If he had hit me right on the side, it would have just been over. So it was just down to maneuvering, and you can see me kind of learning throughout these fights how Low Man really operates. And I think about 20 or 30% the way through this fight, I learned that when he's on top, that's actually not a bad thing. And I also learned that him tilting forward a little bit was really bad for him. So I started kind of trying to get around the back, and I didn't want to push him. I just kind of wanted to use the wedge to lift the back up a little bit, because then the weapon would catch. The other thing that I learned halfway through is that with him on top, if I was on top and then I kind of reversed, it would actually tilt him off, and that's what ended up making him nose plant into the floor. So it was kind of this interesting learning experience, and you can see the two big scratches on the top. That was from when I went up against the wall and he dipped down into, so I learned that was bad. So it was a really interesting fight, kind of testing out the geometry and testing out the physics of what would work against a gyro walker, and in the end it was just a matter of kind of getting him off balance a little bit. So very interesting fight, and I was very happy with this win, because this could have easily retired Low Man, so pretty happy with how that went. So at this point in the competition, Low Man is 3 for 3 with 3 knockouts or 3 pits, and I was up against Red Die number 5 yet again. They had made it through the losers bracket and had won the losers bracket, so now they came back up to the winners bracket, and this was for first or second place. This was a double elimination tournament, so that means I hadn't won yet, so Red Die would need to win twice against me. So this was either mine to win first place, or we would have to fight again. Pretty much the exact same thing, just trying to get under him. I did learn a lot with the wedgelets, and I knew that he could still kind of get under me, and any hits were bad, so I was a lot more cautious. And you could see what happened in the Rickety Cricket fight with the floor. The floor was getting kind of a little bit more warped as the day went on, so I was very, very careful about those seams. So let's see how that fight went.
All right, your beat away final, ladies and gentlemen.
1, fight!
Low Man demonstrating that careful driving we've seen.
Slower. Unless you get around it.
Going into server training mode. Be sure to tip your waiter. Red Die just can't seem to find purchase with that weapon. Low Man, so powerful, a little slow, but the power behind is just unquestionable.
You're gonna have to do something
5,
else.
4, 3, 2, 1, release. Another lift and carry. Uh-oh, we have a little bit of drive problems on Red Die. 2 minutes left in this fight. Bonk. 9, 8, oh.
Peel off your sticker.
Low Man giving him an idea of what his fate is. 37 seconds until that pit drops. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release. FYI, we have a rule here that you can only pin for 10 seconds, so that's why I keep counting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pit.
Here's when it starts.
And here he goes for a ride. Oh, but the seams. Oh no!
Do you want to win like that?
How's he gonna go? Is he gonna let this happen?
Hit.
We might have to start a countdown here.
Kick the arena, come on.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh no! Keep going, keep going.
Do it manually.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Match over. Beep.
So let's talk about this outcome. So the fight was going quite well. It was going in my favor. He didn't get a single hit off of me. And then right there at the end, I went over that middle seam, which is the worst seam in the arena, got high-sided on the wedgelets. Now what's interesting is if you watched, I think, the off-track video, I can get high-side on those wedgelets and drive back. But I got high-sided on the seam, which moved it up like 2 or 3 more millimeters, and that actually made it so the wheels weren't touching. So I was high-sided, couldn't move, I was trying to drive away, and Isaac had a decision. Isaac is the driver of Red Die number 5. He had a decision. He could take this win and then we could go fight again, or he could just push me away and then we could try keep the match going. I talked to him afterwards and I was like, okay, why did you do it? And one of his drive sides had gone down. He had to completely rebuild that drive side. He had to charge the batteries and he had a flight later that day. So he basically made the decision that if we had to go to a second fight, it was going to be a lot of work for him. And he admitted in his own words that it was basically just going to be this same fight all over again. And I don't really disagree with him because I probably would be even more cautious on that second fight. I would have avoided all the seams in the arena and basically just waited out the 2 minutes and then tried to put him into the pit. So, it's one of those tricky situations. I don't know what I would have done if I were him. Maybe I would have tried to get around to the side, but as you saw, he had a lot of trouble driving. And in some competitions, he might have even been counted out for that. Who knows? But basically, in the first fight and the second fight that we had together, his drive side was going out because I was doing a lot of pushing against him. So it was really his call. He decided to just kind of push me off and end it that way, and I ended up getting the decision on the win there. However, based on that, I wanted to have another rematch with him with the other bar that I had. I hadn't used this attachment yet throughout the day, and as you can kind of see, it's a little bit beat up. This is kind of more the plow attachment. It just ended up not making sense for this competition, but what I wanted to do, this does not ride low on the ground, and it's very easy to catch. So I wanted to test this, and I wanted to give him a little bit of satisfaction of hitting low man. So I put on this attachment. We went one more time to see what would happen if he caught this with his vertical spinner. So here is the bonus fight. At this point, I had already won first place, but we just decided to do a little exhibition match just to see how much damage low man could take.
Three, two, one, fight!
And off they go. I don't know what that was, but Red Die just did it.
That was the frame defense.
Low man even is able to push even without the wedgelets.
Look at his transversal seams.
10, 9. Uh-oh, he lost the belt. So that's why he has 2.
All right, come on.
Woo! That left a nice scar.
Now it's scratched.
Revoke your coolest looking award. Oh! That would have been a slam dunk right there if the pit was open.
Why is it up so high in the front? The bottom lip.
Oh.
That got it. Whoa. I can't get up anymore.
I don't know about that.
There's a nice hit. Hey, you guys got that sticker off the floor. Lolo Man slowly tries to ascend Mount Red Die.
I'm gonna get you.
Oh no! Part of it's still moving. Oh wow. Round of applause for both of these competitors.
Before this match, I announced to the audience or the spectators that this is what happens when you use the wrong attachment. And this is, of course, the wrong attachment for a vertical spinner, which I demonstrated in that fight. This was the attachment that would get most bite with red die number 5. And of course, as you saw, it got a lot of bite. What ended up happening during the fight was those big hits that flew me up into the air. It was so much force that this bottom axis panel just kind of wanted to stay where it was, so it kind of pried the two apart. What I found really interesting, at the end there, the bottom was pried open, and that's what was making me high side, and the guts kind of spilled out a little bit because nothing is actually fastened on the inside. It's all just kind of press fit on the inside. The screws were still in place, but the holes, the countersunk holes through the bottom axis plate had just opened up. So the screws were still in place, but they had just pulled the axis panel right through the bolt heads, which I thought was really interesting. So this gave me a little bit of things to think about for the next iteration of Long Man, Low Man. I'm going to change that up a little bit. This bottom axis plate is a little bit too flimsy, and then when it gets hit really hard on the sides or the bottom or the top or whatever, it wants to kind of tend to bow away. So I might change that up a little bit. But generally speaking, everything held up. All 12 motors are fine. I never went through any motors. I'm not going to be doing a damage report video because there was no damage. I didn't replace a single thing. I only charged the batteries in between fights. Everything was fine. There's a couple of motors like these guys that are just a little bit loose. It's actually just the screws that hold the gear head against the motor. They're a little bit loosened. I just need to tighten those. But other than that, it performed really, really well. I was very happy with how Low Man performed. So there's definitely going to be a version 2 that's going to make some tweaks and make some improvements. So pretty happy with that. As always, thanks for watching my fight recap. I have the recap for Psychotic Break coming up next. If you want to help support my channel, you can check out the Amazon link down below. Check out my Facebook page for updates and things like that. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.